actually, if the Laslets are watching, you're no longer on standby. We've got the series now. You're good.
Jenny Heap, producer of Only Connect. Welcome to All Things Quiz. My understanding of the role of a producer is that you make everything happen.
I think I'm the sort of go-between, you know, sort of, I guess I'm the middle point and things happen through me, but I by no means make everything happen. I mean, you know, I'm sort of the least talented of the lot, I would say. I'm just in the middle and I just make sure that everything's coming in from one end and going out the other, as it were. And that's pretty much my job. So I'm seeing the questions come in, I'm making sure they're going into shows, I'm seeing the contestants go in. I'm just the midpoint.
So we last met at the Only Connect reunion in London back in sort of January, February time. You were busy auditioning people for the new series at that point. What point of the production process were you when COVID came along and everything had to stop?
We were 6 days away from shooting when COVID hit, I think, or at least, we were. It was about a week in it. We were ready to go when Britain pretty much went to lockdown, and within a couple of weeks, we were starting to look into ways that, you know, once the new landscape was becoming clearer and how we were going to do this, we were starting to look into, okay, well, how can we shoot this series now? Because we had it cast, we had the questions, we were literally ready to go.
But what did you have to do behind the scenes to kind of make it all safe and compliant?
Well, I mean, first of all, it was the first sort of hurdle was figuring out if the teams were able to join us, because obviously we cast a tournament, but we didn't, you know, it's quite a thing to ask people to travel quite long distances during a global pandemic. By the time we shot we sort of had a shoot date, I think it was end of July. By that point, like, it was a lot, you know, people were, it wasn't that first sort of couple of months when no one was moving, like, you know, everyone was indoors. By the time we got to by the time we were ready to shoot, you know, people were able to travel. So we felt like we could bring people down into Cardiff. And then it was just a question of like, okay, what's the government saying and how do we implement that and make the environment safe possible? And mostly, how do we reassure the teams that it's, you know, going to be a safe environment? So, I mean, it was a lot of, I mean, there was health declarations, there was 2 meter social distancing at all times, everything was sanitized, the studio was having a deep clean every night, we were having temperature checks every morning, like there was a lot going on every day behind the scenes. And in fact, the strange thing about it was, because we were obviously all wearing masks in studio, and also we couldn't, you know, usually I would be in a room with a couple of other people, you know, but we were all sort of kept apart. We were in porta cabins, our keys, and sort of just trying to keep everyone distant. So the weird thing was that by the time you got on set, like, that was the part that felt the most normal. And, you know, I'm sure that viewers are watching it and thinking, oh gosh, they've got screens up, but you forget about the screens within about 10 seconds. You sort of register they're there, and we could all take our masks off on set, and everyone just had a brilliant time then. You know, it was just an enormous relief to just have a great time on set. And the format is so sort of solid. It was reassuringly familiar, I suppose. And you know, we come out of this sort of quite, you know, it's a strange time, I guess, in you know, in Britain, and to go out on set where everything looked and felt pretty much exactly the same was terrific.
You've got perspex screens between players. They've got earpieces so they can hear one another. They've got a buzzer each.
Yeah, so they can hear one another. Yeah, they've got a buzzer each, which I actually really like. I might keep that.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask, is there anything you were going to keep? Because as a former contestant, everybody kind of reaching in and putting their fingers on the buzzer together.
Yeah.
A real pain in the backside, particularly if you're trying to be quick and you've got to push somebody else's finger down. So yeah, I definitely, from a contestant point of view, keep that. That was brilliant.
I think the only place that I found, I mean, generally, I don't think that the measures we had to take, certainly on set, affected gameplay at all. The only place where I noticed it was at the wall. I thought the captain had a lot to do, because ordinarily you can have, you know, you can say to your player on your left, oh, you cycle through and we'll work on this, but the captain has to do everything. The captain has to cycle through and sort of listen to everything. You can't sort of allocate any other person to push any buttons. So I did feel like it put a sort of added pressure on the captains. And that was the only gameplay thing that I noticed. I didn't really clock it until maybe after the first block of filming, and then I realized, and then I started saying to the, the sort of players who were on either side, like, your captains have a lot to do, and you lose the intimacy of the huddle as well, because they have to look up and they're separate and there's a screen there, so they can't sort of prompt in the same way that they would usually. So it was just a lot more for the captains to do, I thought. Fair play to them.
But as you said, the actual show doesn't lose anything at all.
Oh gosh, when the teams came out and just played the game in exactly the way that it was supposed to be played, and were lovely and lively and had a go at everything, I just thought, gosh, thank you so much. I was just so incredibly grateful. I was like, oh yeah, we're going to have a series here, no problem. Because you just, at the moment of, like, the music's playing, and what it's like in the studio, we play it pretty much as live. So music plays in, and it all began, and I thought, oh gosh, here we go. But as soon as they just started playing the game. And that's the thing, though. The game is so, I think it's so, you just want to play it, don't you? It's just a really fun game to play. I always think that, like, Jack and I always have this, Jack, our questionist, and I always have this conversation. Say, oh, they love coming down to Cardiff, it's really fun, and they get to hang out in the hotel, and, they all hang out with each other, and they blah, blah, blah. And Jack's always like, yeah, but they really just like playing the game, because the game is just really fun game to play, and you keep forgetting that. And I'm like, yeah. I never get the chance to play it because I always go in knowing all the answers.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that usually we'll have like 2 or 3 reserve teams from a series. I mean, this year we had about 74 reserve teams. So we had everybody who was reserve team for the series anyway. Then everybody I'd ever known who'd ever taken part in a quiz was also on sort of standby. In fact, actually, if the Laslets are watching, you're no longer on standby. We've got the series now. You're good. All that we felt afterwards was just this enormous relief and this gratitude. We'd felt like Victoria, obviously the host, and we all felt quite strongly that we wanted to get a series done if at all possible. Because, it's not, I think everything's changing so fast. It's quite nice to see something really familiar on television. And we thought that we had a responsibility to put the tournament out the same way we do every year. And if we could do it safely, and we thought that we could, and we proved that we could, then we absolutely wanted to do it. So we felt, after we sort of recorded the series, A, that we were just enormously relieved that it got done, and B, that we're just incredibly grateful to everybody who showed up, all the crew, all the contestants. They were amazing. I mean, they don't get any money for doing it, and people were so nice about it. We'd say, gosh, thank you so much for coming and for not dropping out and being part of the tournament. They were, oh, it's nice change from being in lockdown, and I thought, gosh, that's such an incredibly nice way to view it, and it must have been a bit strange for them outside of studio when they were staying in a hotel. But nobody ever complained or mentioned it. They just came along and had a really good time. And I thought, gosh, I always say that, that's probably quite biased. I think we have the nicest contestants in the world, but that's just decent, isn't it? It's just really nice. And we all felt like we were doing something that collectively felt like a really good thing to do. And we were incredibly grateful to everybody who helped us do that. I will say, though, Gareth, that for this series of Only Connect, I quarantined for no fewer than 10 weeks.
What?
10 weeks I quarantined. 10 weeks. This is my 10th non-consecutive week of quarantine. 10th.
Ouch.
You're one of the only people I've spoken to.
Wow. Your life must have been really tough. Okay, and now you're advertising for new contestants for the next series. So that's really exciting. What are you looking for in the contestants?
People who can play the game. People want to come along and just have a go. You don't have to be. But I think there's a slight misconception that you have to be a brilliant quizzer to do it. It's just not the case. We just want people who are going to have a go at it and talk everything out and be chatty and lively and have a good time. We want, that's what we're looking for. And we don't mind if you come as a team. We don't mind if you come as a person on your own. We can find you a team. And we've got some great teams on the series this year that we actually put together. Yeah. And it works beautifully. Within about 5 minutes, they forget that they ever won a team, and they just start playing the game. So yeah, we're just looking for anybody from any walk of life, have friends or don't have friends, anyone at all. We love it.
Are you going to be able to audition in person, or are you doing it online this time around?
I don't know. I mean, our application forms just gone out this week. I I don't know, honestly. We've basically said we'll follow the government guidelines depending on what they are next year. We wouldn't want to speculate. I mean, I think we're all set up to do Zoom auditions if we need to, and lots of people might find that very convenient.
I do think you get good contestants on, but I do think actually your auditioning process and your attitude towards it kind of gets you that type of contestant. You were saying earlier about people who just want to play the game, that's who you want. Rather than some shows, you see the contestant call, it's like, we want lively, outgoing people. It's like, irrespective of how good they are at playing the game, they just want the personalities. Whereas you want the people who play the game because that's actually what people are watching, and the personality comes along with it, but it's not your primary casting criteria.
I'm trying to think how we audition, but really they just come in, sit down, and play a game of Only Connect while we watch. I mean, for us, imagine watching the same episode of Only Connect 110 times in a row, Gareth. Picture that. That's kind of what I like for those views. I don't even know how many times it is, but it feels like about 100. People who we're quite, I think when it comes to the audition, we try and make it irreverent. It's not a very, you remember, don't you? Yeah. It's not a very formal sort of setting. We want we want them to just relax and chat things out, and we sort of try and recreate what they'll experience in studio in the audition, to give them the best possible shot at getting good marks. But just come along and have a go.
Jenny, thanks for that insight into Only Connect, particularly in the COVID era, and best of luck with the new series.
Thanks, Gareth.
Thanks for watching this video on all things quiz. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button. And if you really enjoyed it and want to see more like this, then click subscribe. And to the left, you can see some other videos you might enjoy.